Hello everybody, this is me Amin.
And this Alex.
And welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About. And in this episode, we're going to talk about one of the most significant phone launches for 2022. And of course, we're talking about a phone from Samsung. By the way, we're recording this on Friday, the 11th of February. So it's recording on Friday, the 11th of February. And this week, Samsung just announced one of their most anticipated series of phones ever. It is the Galaxy S22 Series. So there are three phones, the S22, S22 Plus, and S22 Ultra. And for the first time ever, the S series of phones get an S Pen.
Built in. And for the first time ever, no, this is not the first time. This marks the confirmation that the Note series is finally dead. So unless Samsung will be launching another Note or they're going to resurrect the Note brand, you can expect that there will be no more Samsung Galaxy Note phones coming out moving on into the future. They didn't launch anything last year. And I don't expect them to launch anything this year either. So to make up for that, because I believe, and Samsung still thinks that there are people out there who still would like to use a stylus with their phone. And I think the Note series, I think Rory thinks the same way. The Note series is a very iconic phone, and it is, to my mind, the only phone in this modern era that has a stylus and that has a stylus that works so well. A lot of companies like LG, even Motorola has come out with a phone with a stylus recently, has not even come close to what Samsung can do when it comes to delivering. So coming back to the Galaxy S22, we have three phones coming to Malaysia, or now available for pre-order in Malaysia. To break down the specs, I pass it over to Alex. So Alex, can you tell us what's in store with the S22, S22 Plus, and the S22 Ultra? Okay, so the first thing I want to address is the processor. So a lot of people are asking, why is it Malaysia always get Exynos processor? So now your answers, your prayers are finally answered. So Samsung is bringing the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor for the Malaysian market.
Yay!
Across the board, S22, 22 Plus, and the 22 Ultra are getting Snapdragon processors.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people will be super happy on the Snapdragon processor, but I guess there'll be still a lot of people who don't really know what processor they have in their phone, don't really care. So why is the Snapdragon processor more preferred than the Exynos processor?
Well, among the power users, especially the Android community, they always find that Exynos is the inferior processor because of overheating concerns and battery life concerns. And they say that, if you do benchmarks, the Snapdragon always perform better, and the battery life generally is better on the Qualcomm processor compared to Samsung. But this year, actually, I have a lot of hopes on the Exynos chip, the new one, because the brand new Exynos 2200, they have actually partnered with AMD to come up with a processor that delivers console quality gaming performance on a mobile device. But there was a couple of stumbling blocks because they were supposed to launch that in 11th of January, because typically they want to announce the processor first before the phone. 11 January came and left and nothing happened. So people was wondering, hey, what's going on with Exynos? Are they going to launch or not? And eventually they did a few weeks later, but without answering the core details. So other people are saying that, this new Exynos processor might have some heating issues because a couple of leaks revealed that they actually underclocked the processor to make sure that it's stable and it's within acceptable levels. But I'm actually looking forward to that because it uses AMD's RDNA technology. So that's supposed to give better gaming performance, because essentially, to make it clear, the Exynos 2200 and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, they are very similar in terms of CPU. Similar cores for performance, prime and all that. And both of them are based on a 4nm process. The difference is the GPU, which a lot of people are expecting from the Exynos processor.
Yeah, so on paper, it seems like the Exynos 2200. By the way, Exynos is developed by Samsung. If you don't know, so it's an in-house processor developed by Samsung. So on paper, the S2200 has more potential because of the GPU. And I don't know whether they promised that, but the claims seems to point that the processor is able to deliver gaming performance on par
with the current generation of console. So, you know, you wouldn't be far off playing games on an on an Exynos 2200 processor with the same quality as you'd get on a PlayStation 5 or the latest Xbox. So to gamers, that's a huge deal. But to a lot of people, you know, it's not really something. I mean, I don't really care so much about the GPU processors, but I think there are gamers out there who feel that this is important. So on paper, the Exynos 2200 has a lot going for it, but I think Samsung has some problems with the processor, like you mentioned, Alex. And so if you look at Samsung's history of development, right? So if you go all the way back to the Note 7, they were pushing battery technology to the max during the Note 7. They wanted to pack as much battery power as possible in as thin of a package as possible. And that blew up in their faces. We had problems with battery, with the phone catching fire and all that. And I wanted to say that Samsung was like very good at handling the crisis. And what they've done was very admirable. I think they've handled something so major like the Note 7 very well that it really didn't hamper their reputation. But why I wanted to bring out the Note 7 was because I guess learning from that, Samsung is now being a bit more careful when they are launching new products, especially products that push the boundary. Hence why the Exynos 2200 is programmed to underperform, rather than perform at the par of what the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 can deliver. But I agree with you, Alex. There's a lot of potential there. But having said that, with regards to potential, I think it's something that we don't have to think about right now because the whole range of the S22 that's coming to Malaysia is getting Snapdragon. And with that, you get comparable performance for everybody, generally, not just for gamers. And you get considerably better battery life compared to the Exynos. So you're not trading off anything, not getting the Exynos over the Snapdragon, despite the Exynos being potentially a better processor. Other than that, what is the difference between the S22, 22 Plus, and 22 Ultra? And I guess for me, the next question is, which one would be the sweet spot for you?
Okay, let's go through the sizes. So the S22 and S22 Plus, they look like an evolution from the previous S21 series. You have the small, medium. But the S22 Ultra, this time looks very different. If you look at the design, right, it looks like it didn't came from the same tree. It looks like it came from a Galaxy Note family. Because look at the camera bump. It has no resemblance from the S22 and S22 Plus. So the S22 and S22 Plus, in fact, they actually reduced the sizes from the previous model. So the S22 now gets a 6.1-inch display, and the S22 Plus gets a 6.6-inch display, so it's 0.1 inch smaller. And actually, Samsung has done some refinement, so the bezels are narrower. And in fact, the S22, the footprint, as in the width and the height, is slightly smaller than the iPhone 13. So it's more compact. And one thing I noticed that they had more flatter edges. So I think that's an ongoing theme right now. So most phones these days in 2022, they launch with flat, like industrial.
You mean the sides, right? So the sides are more square.
Yeah, and the screens are more flat.
Rather than curved, right? So if you look at the iPhone 13, for example, you can see there's like a really square profile on the edges.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the S22 and the S22 and 22 Plus is following the same design trend.
Approach, yes.
The Ultra is doing the same thing as well.
For the Ultra, right, in actual fact, if you look at it, it looks identical to the Note 20 Ultra and also the S21 Ultra. So it's more curved edges, more rounded edges. But now you get like a different kind of frame at the sides. But overall, it looks very similar. Looks like they just get another design from the Note series and okay, here you go. Let's make it the S22 Ultra. Yeah.
So okay, what are the highlights? So you get like 120 hertz refresh rate across the board. The display, you don't worry about it. I think the display is on any of the Samsung phones, the flagship phones. You don't have to worry. I think the displays are super good. All of them get a in-screen fingerprint scanner.
Yes,
except for the Ultra.
All of them has an in-screen finger sensor, ultrasonic. Speaking of display, so for the S22 Plus and the S22 Ultra, it now boasts a high 1,750 nits of peak brightness. That's super high. That's higher than the 1005 from the previous models. And to make it more visible in harsh sunlight, under direct sunlight, there's something called Vision Booster. So Vision Booster is essentially a feature where they can bump up the brightness while still making sure that the picture is not washed out. So in a way, long story short, it's basically like adjusting the contrast lah. Like it's like sunlight display on phones we've seen before. But which is cool. But this peak brightness is only applicable for the Tier 2 models. So the base S22 is lower at I think 1,300 nits. Yeah, but
it's still considerably bright.
It's still bright
for most phones. I think even the iPhone is pushing probably 1,000 nits.
Samsung's still up there.
Yeah.
And also in terms of the screen resolution, the smaller two models, the S22, S22 Plus, has a full HD display, and the bigger Ultra gets a quad HD display. And also another thing to take note is that they are now using Corning's Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, a newer version, and it's for the front and back across the range. So which means that if you get the cheapest S22 model, you don't get a plastic bag.
So previously the S21 had like a plastic bag. The
plastic.
21 Plus also had a plastic bag.
S21 is glass bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Samsung, in terms wanted to like reduce costs, and I think it's like a big issue for a lot of people. I think Rory is one of the biggest proponent of like, what is going on? Why do you put a plastic bag on a phone? The other flip side of it is like, okay, most phone owners will have
Put
a case, so it doesn't matter what backing you have. But it's the principle of the matter, right? Rather than, you deciding for the consumer what they want and what they need. Like how we see Apple, right? Despite whatever, they still have
premium
glass
body,
back
across the range,
aluminium frame or stainless steel. And I guess for fans and for people who these things matter, having a glass back is good. And it's important because these are at least the two things that Samsung is doing to show that they are listening to customers. So number one is putting Snapdragon processors in key markets like Malaysia, and now featuring a glass back across all the range. And then, okay, let's talk about the camera. The S22 and 22 Plus feature a triple camera setup, while the S20 Ultra features a quad camera setup. Okay, so what's good about the quad camera setup? I see there are like, two telephoto lenses, two telephoto cameras on the quad setup. So what's different?
So Ultra is quite similar to the previous models. You get like a 108 megapixel main camera. You have an ultra wide, I think 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and you have two 10 megapixel telephoto camera. So one is for 3 times optical zoom. So for the typical use cases, if you want to go further, there's a periscope camera that pushes 10 times optical zoom. And of course, you have the 100 times super zoom, which is available as standard. And for the S22, S22 Plus, the significant update is that it now comes with a 50 megapixel main camera. So that has a bigger sensor, and the other cameras are 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera and a 10 megapixel telephoto camera. So the biggest highlight this time that Samsung's pushing is nightography. So nightography is just a fancy word of saying that we have super low light mode, night mode. So according to Samsung, with a bigger sensor and with better AI performance, they can promise a better low light shots, because low light is not exactly new. I mean, everyone's done it, Huawei has done it, iPhone has done it, and I think like the recent iPhones, we've seen that they really make low light photography so good in the sense that in the dark, right, POC is visible with low light mode, but Apple has managed to like preserve colors. So based on what Rory has tried, he says that the color for the low light mode in Samsung's S22 is even better. Yeah, but then again, we need to get the phone and try ourselves, because he's seeing from the screen. So not sure, is it the camera's good or the screens is just damn good.
So the low light performance is yet to be proven until we get our test units and we really put them to the test. Probably we're going to compare it with the iPhone 13, which is currently one of the best low light cameras available in a smartphone. I'm disappointed in the camera department that they didn't include macro mode. So if you remember the Oppo Find X3 Pro, right? It has like a super amazing macro camera. And when I first saw it, I think I said that I'd rather have a macro camera any day rather than a telephoto zoom camera, rather than a 10x camera. So I'd prefer the quad camera to have a super good macro lens. So Oppo went the other direction in having a
camera lens that specifically does macro photography only. So in that camera array, they have one camera that only does macro photography and nothing else. So on the flip side, you have Apple, right? So Apple with the iPhone 13 still has the 3-camera array, the triple camera, which have one ultra wide, one wide, and one telephoto. But they also have a very interesting micro mode, and we tested that, and the micro mode is pretty good, and it's even more amazing because they utilize the telephoto camera, the ultra wide camera, to get the macro effect. So what you do is with the iPhone 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max, you turn on the ultra wide camera, you go super close to a subject, and you get the macro mode, and that's really cool. The interesting is Samsung didn't mention anything about macro mode in their presentation or in their materials. So I'm curious to find out whether they also employ a similar thing. Because if you notice, when Apple announced the iPhone 13, they didn't talk about macro mode either. It was something that people discovered when they were playing with the camera. And then after the fact, they start marketing about, Apple started marketing about macro mode. So that's something that's interesting to see. I guess in the camera department, when it comes to the Galaxy S22, 22 Plus, and the S22 Ultra, you can expect what you want to expect from Samsung, right?
Oh, and speaking of which, I think another feature I want to mention is that when doing the launch event, for Unpack event, they mentioned that they actually offer better integration for between apps like Snapchat, Instagram. And TikTok.
Yeah. But that's not anything new. I mean, Samsung has already done that most of the time, especially with the Galaxy S series and the Note series. They've always mentioned that they support the cameras natively support these applications. This is important because if you're using iPhone, you know that iPhone camera, especially when you're shooting for Instagram and TikTok, is so much better than
any
Xiaomi,
Android phone,
for example, or any Android phone. But Samsung is very close, but not quite. So it's interesting that they mentioned that, although I don't think that this is anything new, but maybe there's a significant improvement that makes it on par with Apple. But that's still something that we have to test and find out. In terms of memory that we're getting, what are the memory? What's the word I'm looking for? Configurations that we can get for the Malaysia market.
So for the smaller for the S22, S22 Plus, you get 8 gigs of RAM, and you have either 128 or 256 gigs of storage. And for the S22 Ultra, the lower two models, you get 8 gigs of RAM with 128 gig storage and 256 gig of storage. But there's also highest variants as well. So for the 512 gig storage and 1 terabyte storage, you get 12 gigs of RAM. But in Malaysia, we don't have the 1 terabyte just yet. I got a feeling probably Samsung going to release it later down the line.
Yep.
But so far, the biggest you can get right now is 512 gigs of storage. But I think take note that all these new models, they don't have micro SD card expansion slots. So bear that in mind.
I think that's normal for Samsung phones. So I'm not sure whether people care about having micro SD anymore. If you do, let us know in the comments below. And then we go into the we go into the battery. So the S22 has a 3,700 milliamp hour battery.
Yeah, which is smaller than the old ones.
Yeah, which is actually quite small considering. I think flagship level, you are looking at least a 4,000 milliamp hour battery.
Minimum 4,000.
And then for the S22, the base model, even the charging is not so fast. It's only 25 watts, which is, pretty standard. But I guess I don't want to compare it with like Super VOOC and whatever with 45 watt charging, because it depends on the battery capacity and it depends on how well the phone can manage the battery and stuff like that. So I'm not going to knock it down for the 25 watt charging capability. On the S22 Plus side, you get 4,500 milliamp hour and up to 45 watts of fast charging. On the Ultra, you get 5,000 milliamp hour. And 45 watts of charging. I think you mentioned it's quite amazing that they could cram in 5,000 watt milliamp hour battery in the S22 Ultra
while keeping the S Pen silo.
Yeah,
because previously on the S20 Ultra, you get a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, but when we released the Note 20 Ultra, it was reduced to 4,500 milliamp hour battery because they need to make space for the stylus.
For the stylus and the silo, right?
Yeah, so finally, for Note users, which is now the S22 Ultra, you get a big battery and having an S Pen built in.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it in terms of the specs. In terms of like the interesting features and the special secret stuff that comes when we test the phone. So we haven't yet gotten the phone. Obviously, this is only like a couple of days after the launch. So we can't talk more about that. But on paper, I think you can expect the S22 series to be as good as any of the flagship smartphones that you've ever tried before. The question is, which one would you put your money down?
For me, as a power user, of course, I go for the best. Even though I don't use an S Pen, but I appreciate a bigger screen and a bigger battery. So I'll go for the S22 Ultra.
But, okay, so it's not much of a difference, right? So if you look at the specs, right? So the Ultra and the 22 Plus, it's only 0.2 of an inch difference in terms of the screen size, and only 500 milliamp hour in terms of the battery capacity. So I guess if you have a slightly smaller screen, you don't need the battery capacity, and I guess we can negate the stylus because it's a 50-50 thing. Sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't. And the processor is the same. Only the Ultra gets more RAM. You get 12 gigs.
But only if you go for the 512 gig storage.
Yeah. So would you get the 12 gig 512?
For me, I think I'll go for 256 for now.
So it's still a 5K phone, right?
Yeah, still a 5K phone.
For the 8 gig 256?
Yep, it's all above 5,000. So to recap the prices, the Ultra for 128 gigs starts at 5099, the 256 gigs is at 5499, and the 512 is 5899.
Okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think something we forgot to mention earlier is that Samsung is committing a much longer software support. So for the S22, you're going to get 4 major Android updates and 5 years of security updates. That's a huge deal because this means that, okay, right now, these phones are launched with Android 12. So technically, you could get an updates up to Android 16.
Yep.
And you get 5 years of software support. As a comparison, even Google's on Pixel, right? They're only promising 3 years of major software updates. So can you see that? I mean, Samsung's doing a better job than Google.
Yeah, so I think that's good. So I guess you don't have to worry about replacing your phone every 2 years because the support is there.
You can hold on to it up to 5 years.
And it's running a Snapdragon processor, so you don't have to worry so much because, in terms of the battery life and everything like that. So that shouldn't be a problem. So Alex mentioned that he's going to get the S22 Ultra. If you ask me, I think I'm going to be the same as well. Probably get the best that you can get. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get the 12 gig, but it has the 512 gigs of storage, so I think that's important. But what 800 ringgit difference is it in terms of like from the 256 to the 512?
$400. So it's like 128 to 256 is at $400, and then from there up to 512 for another $400.
So $400 for another 256 gigs of what? And
UFS storage.
UFS what? 3, 4?
Should be at least 3 lah.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.1.
Is it worth it?
Well, if you're going to hold on to the phone for 5 years, I mean, think about how much space you're going to need in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yes, and if you don't use cloud storage, that's a big thing. Samsung Cloud, whatever it's called, it's no longer available anyway.
Yeah, they want to use OneDrive and other stuff.
You can use OneDrive, but it's not as integrated as if you use iCloud, for example. So you have to consider that in mind. And always having bigger storage having the biggest storage that you can afford is always better than getting the smaller one lah.
Yep.
Okay, then the next question is, who would upgrade to this phone?
I guess
if you're like a Samsung user, right, would you upgrade to the S22?
If you don't like to use iOS devices, and if you're looking for like a solid Android smartphone with a polished interface, with a proper ecosystem, because Samsung has quite a lot of stuff going on for it. I mean, you have Samsung Knox, which assures you of safety and privacy, and you also got Samsung Pay and other stuff as well. So for the best Android experience, I would say go for Samsung.
I mean, like, okay, so let's say if you're on the S10 or S20 or S21, is it a worthwhile upgrade? So I guess if you're on a S21, it's okay, you can still keep your phone.
Stay on,
I think the phone is still okay. So, but if you're on the S22 and the S10, I mean, if you're on the S10, sure, you need to upgrade.
Yeah, you can upgrade because, okay, I'm also, because recently switched to the S21 Ultra. Previously, I was using an S10 Plus, and I just got an update to Android 12. So if you're using Android Sorry, if you're using a Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, it still works today. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not as fast as the latest phones, but it's still usable. I can use it to watch my YouTube. I can access my social media accounts. No issue. Camera still works great. S10 Plus.
Yep.
If you're okay with it, I think you can still hold on to it. And
Battery life is good too.
battery life is still okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the display, I think, still no problems.
Still no problem. It's still brighter than the iPhones, I believe.
Yeah, the Samsung displays are like super good. So as a workhorse, I think shouldn't be a problem. So if you're on the S20, maybe you don't have to upgrade. I mean, it depends on you. But if you're on the S21, definitely might want to give this a pass and wait for the S23, whatever it is going to be called. I think that's pretty much it.
Also for Note users, if let's say you're using the old Galaxy Note, no brainer. This is the Galaxy Note for you, the S22 Ultra.
So if you've been holding out and waiting for Samsung to come and produce a Note device for you, actually, and it's rightly so that you reminded me that actually the S22 Ultra is technically a Note.
Yeah. So
my question is, why didn't they just keep the Note name and launch it with the S phones? So you can have the S22, 22 Plus. No, they can't, because then they only have like one Ultra flagship.
Yeah, I think you want to have one big phone, whether you want an S Pen or not. Okay, here's the phone for you.
So they only have one Ultra, one version of an Ultra. Because previously there was like a Note 10 Ultra, right? Was it?
Note 20 Ultra.
Note 20 Ultra.
And this is S20 Ultra, which
and
are very similar.
And then the difference is not much except for the silo.
Yeah.
So I guess they are economizing in terms of manufacturing and stuff like that. And so if you're a Note fan, using the stylus all the time, the S20 Ultra is the way to go. I guess the bummer part is
S22 Ultra, I mean.
Sorry, S22 Ultra. But the bummer part is for those who are for those who don't have a flagship budget but want a stylus, they are forced to get an Ultra, which at the bare minimum costs 5,000 ringgit.
Not really. I mean, you still can get the Note 20 Ultra.
Uh-huh.
Right now, it's selling for about 3,900 ringgit.
Yeah.
So you can save close to 2,000 ringgit if you don't mind not getting the latest. And of course, that one, based on my experience with the Note 10 Pro, so S10 Plus, I think you still can get one more year's update.
But the question is, you're not going to be able to get a Note 20 Ultra brand new?
Yeah, you can brand new. It's still available.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Brand new. It's about 3,009 around there for 256 gigs.
So you still recommend that? But that runs on Exynos, right?
Yeah, still runs Exynos. I mean, if you really want to have a Note phone with the S Pen on the budget, that's the next best alternative.
Yeah.
So just now we mentioned the price for the S22 Ultra, which costs 5,000 plus. So for the entry level, the smaller models, for the S22, it retains the same pricing as the S21.
Yep.
So it starts at 3,499 for 128 gigs and 3,699 for 256 gigs. For the Plus model, the base 128 is a bit higher than before. It starts at 4,099, and the 256 gigs is the same as previous one. It's 4,299. So that's the pricing.
Do you know whether the S Pen works on the other two phones? Because like the Fold, right?
Yep.
You can get a S Pen separately.
Yep.
And use it, so it doesn't come with a silo.
Yep.
For this one, do you know whether it works?
I don't think so, because I think they need like a special digitizer with Wacom thing.
So they need like a special display.
Yeah, so there's something, because the S22 Ultra display is different. In fact, even the refresh rate is actually much better in the sense that it can go to as low as 1 hertz to save on power.
I guess we have to try it out, because sometimes they don't mention it, but when we try it out, it works.
Perhaps.
I remember there was a device that we tested.
Since you talk about different stylus, right? So Samsung basically they want to have more integration with the ecosystem.
Yep.
So if you get the new Galaxy Tab S8, there's something like a collaboration mode, so you can actually use the S Pen on the Tab S8 and then turn your S22 Ultra into a secondary screen. So if you, let's say, doing some artwork whatsoever, you can move the toolbars on the S22 Ultra and use that secondary screen.
You use the S Pen on the S8.
Yes, the S Pen from the Tab 8, which is thicker, and then use it on the S22 Ultra.
Yep.
Yeah.
So but does it work the other way around? Meaning that if you use the S Pen on the
the smaller pen on the big, that one I'm not too sure. Only one we find out.
All these things we have to find out. And then I think Anip tried the various styluses on a phone. I can't remember which phone. Do you remember that video he tried?
The other cheaper S Pens, is it?
He tried like a Wacom digitizer. He tried like a S Pen, but I can't remember what phone it was.
in terms of pointing device and drawing, I think it might work. The only difference is that you lose out the extra features, the air gestures or the hover.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So the takeaway from today's episode is that Samsung has launched the S22. I think we can't fault the phone in any way. All of them run Snapdragon processor, which is like really good. The only thing is probably the S20, the base model, has like a really small battery, 3,500 milliamp hour, when flagships should run about 4,000. Other than that, if you have the budget, go for the Ultra. If you need an S Pen, go for the Ultra. Yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty much it, actually. Okay, so if you have any questions, put them in the comment section. We'll be more than happy to answer them. We're also available on podcast, so please do listen to us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. All you have to do is just search for Let's Talk About, and we're there. If you are listening to us on podcast, do give us a 5-star rating if you find the show enjoyable, because that helps the show a lot. And for our YouTube viewers, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Please do give us a thumbs up if the show is helpful. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Your comments and suggestions in the comment section below, we appreciate it very much. And that's pretty much it.
And leave a voice note if you want to leave us a voice note.
Oh yes. Yeah. So if you are listening to us on podcast, and you want to comment on the show, drop us a voice note. So record yourself on WhatsApp. Or whatever recorder you like, and then send the voice note in an email to
Let's Talk About.
Okay, to Let's Talk About @Soyajinchao. And if it's an interesting voice note, an insightful voice note, or it comes with a really interesting question, we'll be more than happy to answer them and put that voice note in our next show. So thank you very much for watching, guys. This is me, Amin,
and this is Alex.
Catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.